Hello everyone! In this episode, let's take a look at the Microsoft Patch Tuesday, August 2022 vulnerabilities. I use my Vulristics vulnerability prioritization tool as usual. I take comments for vulnerabilities from Tenable, Qualys, Rapid7, ZDI and Kaspersky blog posts. Also, as usual, I take into account the vulnerabilities added between the July and August Patch Tuesdays. There were 147 vulnerabilities, urgent 1, critical 0, high 36, medium 108, low 2. There was a lot of great stuff this Patch Tuesday. There was a critical, exploited in the wild MSDT DogWalk vulnerability, 3 critical exchange vulnerabilities that could be easily missed in prioritization, 13 potentially dangerous vulnerabilities, 2 funny vulnerabilities, and 3 mysterious ones. Let's take a closer look. DogWalk. Remote code execution in Microsoft Windows Support Diagnostic Tool. MSDT CV 2022-34-713. Dubbed DogWalk. The only urgent level vulnerability, the Microsoft Support Diagnostic Tool, MSDT, is a service in Microsoft Windows that allows Microsoft technical support agents to analyze diagnostic data remotely for troubleshooting purposes. DogWalk vulnerability allows code execution when MSDT is called using the URL protocol from a calling application, typically Microsoft Word. There is an element of social engineering to this, as a threat actor would need to convince a user to click a link or open a document. Exploitability assessment. Exploitation in the wild detected. The existence of a public exploit is mentioned in Microsoft CVSS temporal score, functional exploit, but it's not yet available in public exploit packs. DogWalk is similar to MSDT RCE Falina CV 2022-30-190, which made some hype in May of this year. It's not clear if this vulnerability is the result of a failed patch or something new. 3 Microsoft Exchange elevation of privileges. Elevation of privilege in Microsoft Exchange CV 2022-21-980, CV 2022-24-516, CV 2022-24-477. I will not hide, these vulnerabilities were not detected as critical by Vulristics, only as medium. This happened due to the fact that these are not RCEs but EOPs. No public exploit or sign of exploitation in the wild. But these vulnerabilities are very critical due to the fact that Exchange is often accessible from the internet and because of details about the vulnerability, which is only highlighted by ZDI. These bugs could allow an authenticated attacker to take over the mailboxes of all Exchange users, read and send emails or download attachments from any mailbox on the Exchange server. This gives access to valuable data and great opportunities for developing an attack. Administrators will also need to enable extended protection to fully address these vulnerabilities. It's not clear how to highlight such vulnerabilities automatically because there are few formal signs. Apparently, it is required to raise the priority of the software available on the perimeter and software that operates with important data. 13 potentially dangerous vulnerabilities. Remote code execution in Windows Point-to-Point Protocol (PPP) CV 2022-30-133, CV 2022-35-744. The point-to-point protocol (PPP) is the default RAS (Remote Access Service Protocol) in Windows and is a data link layer protocol used to encapsulate higher network layer protocols to pass over synchronous and asynchronous communication lines. Both vulnerabilities allow attackers to send requests to the remote access server, which can lead to the execution of malicious code on the machine, and both have the same CVSS score 9 and 8. These vulnerabilities can only be exploited by communicated via port 1723 as a temporary workaround. Prior to installing the updates that address this vulnerability, you can block traffic through that port, thus rendering the vulnerability unexploitable. Warning: disabling port 1723 could affect communication over your network. Exploitability assessment: exploitation less likely. Remote code execution in Windows Secure Socket Tunneling Protocol (SSTP). CV 2022-35-766. CV 2022-35-794. SSTP is a VPN tunneling protocol designed to secure your online traffic. Successful exploitation of this vulnerability requires an attacker to win a race condition. An unauthenticated attacker could send a specially crafted connection request to a RAS remote access service server, which could lead to remote code execution RCE on the RAS server machine. Exploitability assessment: exploitation less likely. Remote code execution in SMB client and server CV 2022-35-804. The server side of this vulnerability would allow a remote, unauthenticated attacker to execute code with elevated privileges on affected SMB servers. Interestingly, this bug only affects Windows 11, which implies some new functionality introduced this vulnerability. Either way, this could potentially be wormable between affected Windows 11 systems with SMB server enabled. Disabling SMB version 3 compression is a workaround for this bug, but applying the update is the best method to remediate the vulnerability. This vulnerability is reminiscent of past SMB vulnerabilities, such as the Eternal Blue SMB version 1 flaw patched in MS-17-010 in March of 2017 that was exploited as part of the WannaCry incident, in addition to the more recent CV 2020-0796 Eternal Darkness RCE flaw in SMB 3.1.1. Remote code execution in Visual Studio CV 2022-35-777, CV 2022-35-825, CV 2022-35-826, CV 2022-35-827. The existence of a public exploit is mentioned in Microsoft CVSS temporal score, proof of concept exploit. None of the vendors highlighted these vulnerabilities, but it seems that these can be used in targeted phishing against developers. Elevation of privilege in Active Directory CV 2022-34-691. An authenticated user could manipulate attributes on computer accounts they own or manage and acquire a certificate from Active Directory certificate services that would allow elevation of privilege to system. The advisory notes that exploitation is only possible when Active Directory certificate services is running on the domain. Exploitability assessment: exploitation less likely. Remote code execution in Windows Network File System CV 2022-34-715. This is now the fourth month in a row with an NFS code execution patch. To exploit this, a remote unauthenticated attacker would need to make a specially crafted call to an affected NFS server. This would provide the threat actor with code execution at elevated privileges. Although we have not yet seen the actual exploitation of such vulnerabilities. Elevation of privilege in Windows print Spooler, CV 2022-35-793, CV 2022-35-755. The print Spooler is software built into the Windows operating system that temporarily stores print jobs in the computer's memory until the printer is ready to print them. CV 2022-35-755 can be exploited using a specially crafted input file, while exploitation of CV 2022-35-793 requires a user click on a specially crafted URL. Both would give the attacker system privileges. Both vulnerabilities can be mitigated by disabling the print Spooler service, but CV 2022-35-793 can also be mitigated by disabling inbound remote printing via group policy. Two funny vulnerabilities. Vulristics suddenly highlighted the memory corruption in Microsoft Edge, CV 2022-2623 vulnerability, because there is a public exploit for it. It turned out that there was a bug in the exploit databases 0day today and PocketStorm. CV 2022-2623 was mistakenly written instead of CV 2022-26-233. And this also happens, and no one checks it. Well, prioritization of vulnerabilities based on distorted source data does not work well. Denial of service in Microsoft Outlook, CV 2022-35-742. This was reported through the ZDI program and is a mighty interesting bug. Sending a crafted email to a victim causes their Outlook application to terminate immediately. Outlook cannot be restarted. Upon restart, it will terminate again once it receives and processes the invalid message. It is not necessary for the victim to open the message or to use the reading pane. The only way to restore functionality is to access the mail account using a different client, for example, webmail or administrative tools, and remove the offending emails from the mailbox before restarting Outlook. Three mysterious vulnerabilities: CERT, CC, CVE 2022-34-303, CryptoPro bootloader bypass. CERT, CC, CVE 2022-34-301, Eurosoft bootloader bypass. CERT, CC, CVE 2022-34-302, New Horizon Data Systems Incorporated bootloader bypass. They came from the US CERT Coordination Center. No one writes anything about them, only Tenable. Quote, security bypass vulnerabilities in a third-party driver affecting Windows Secure Boot. End of quote. Maybe this is, of course, a coincidence, and we are talking about other software, but isn't CryptoPro a Russian CryptoPro? Quote, the company's main activity is cryptographic software development and public key infrastructure solutions based on national and international standards. End of quote. Isn't Eurosoft a Russian Eurosoft? Software for architectural design. So it is all very curious. The link to the full Vulristics report is available in the blog post. And that's it for today. Please subscribe and leave your comments. Bye.